start looking at people for who they are, not what they did or what they have done, or who are they in here and how do they pour that into contributions to the community. If you don't want to be bothered with people, donate $5.
And let me say this, like, for people that are more in maybe my peer group, okay? Because the reality is that this kind of work is not necessarily needed in all communities. If you happen to live in a community that is very, very a privileged community, then you should absolutely find a way to work in other communities. So, and I'm not saying that feeding your neighbor next door isn't valuable in any community, but like, you know, some places need the work more than others. And I think that most people don't realize that because they don't step outside of their own little, you know, ecosystem. And that's why for me, I'm always so like, I feel like in so many ways, Mo, I'm like always up your ass. Like, what are you working on? What can we do? What can I do to help you?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I got to give you a shout out. Let me tell you about Jen, right? Jen. You know, some people will say, oh, Jen is problematic, you know. Here, look, oh my God, Jen, you know, Jen this and Jen that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I understand what you may be saying from your perspective, but let me give you my perspective. My perspective is that Jen be putting in the work. Jen extends herself, and I'm talking like she's not here. Let me talk to you, Jen. Jennifer Perlman, Generational Change. Jen from Generational Change. She's right. She's like, yo, Mo, what do you need me to do? What time do you need me to come by? I haven't heard from you in a long time. Is there anything that you need? How can I help you? What can I provide? What can I do for you? Right? And I love it and I appreciate it. She shows up when I call. She donates monetarily. She if she has extra stuff, she gives it. The lady just trying to give it all away, okay? Like the lady, she really cares about wanting to make an impact in the way that she can, right? And really help others. So I want to give you that shout out because since the day that I met you, and let's give a shout out in a moment of silence for Dexter Gunn. Dexter Gunn, that's how we met. Dexter Gunn introduced us. Dexter Gunn was at the forefront of Amendment 4, really, really hitting the ground. A solid brother, a brother who helped brothers get out of prison with his knowledge, a brother who just was an amazing human being. And I met Jennifer Perlman through Dexter Gunn. So
he's the reason I reactivated my law license. Like, you know, he was just very special. I feel like I knew him for a short while, but like it was very monumental in like this sort of turning point in what I'm doing. It's just, yeah, it was very important to me. But I feel like I'm so like on you about this because you have your fingers on the pulse of what people in need way more so than I'm going to ever be able to really detect. And I feel like you've allowed me entrance into an understanding that I never would have had about so many things. And like, I am forever grateful for that. So like, for me, it's like, and I've said this to you before, it's like, I kind of just want to be around it. Like you've got this, I mean, I hate to say black girl magic, but there's this thing about you that is just like, I don't know. It sucks me in, Mo.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you. Jen has been in the trenches with me. Like, so we had a brother out in South Broward that allowed us to use his home. Like, I'm talking about this little tiny place where we actually made all the pancakes and we fed at least 100 and something people, fresh pancakes with sprinkles and fresh fruits. And, you know, and it's all about, it's about not having any excuses. We can do a little bit every day. Can you imagine if everyone did a little bit?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it's about. I'm still learning, right? I'm still figuring things out. Even when you ask, you know, what do I need? At times I really don't know. You know what I mean? Because although I'm an advocate, I'm still in it, right? In the process of figuring this out and learning and wanting to help our communities and really educate our communities. And education and understanding local politics is very important. I've actually now made that part of my work because I see the connection now, right? Because
I converted you, Mo. When we met, she's like, I don't want nothing to do with nothing about politics. You keep your, I don't want anything to do with any of that. And I'm like, you got to figure out what works for you, you know? And
right.
I'm glad I was part of that.
Yeah. You were part of it. Peter was part of it. I remember having like a real deep conversation when I first met Peter. He had come down from up north, and he really like broke down a lot of things. Some friends that I have as well really broke things down, really talked to me about how the school board is broken down, how it's broken down in districts, and just several people have really helped me understand this. So if it's taken me right this long to understand, imagine communities who can't even make the connection. So it's going to take time. It's going to take love. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take creativity, because ain't nobody, you can't just be going up and vote. They're going to be like, vote for what? Look what I should look like every day anyway. It's about serving. It's about building trust. It's about advocating and protecting the community from outside. And I call them intruders, because y'all just want to come around every 4 years, extract and keep it moving. We're not doing that no more. We're not doing that no more.
Stop asking them for their votes and not giving people anything.
What I find most interesting, and this is why I feel like Jen has to run one more time, is because the communities that are the most neglected are also the ones that have the most power when they're engaged. That is why Obama beat Clinton in 2008. That is why Andrew Gillum beat Gwen Graham in 2018. And that's not what the establishment wants. The establishment wants you to do what you're told, even if you're going to be engaged in the process. You see, they act like they care about impoverished communities, particularly Wasserman Schultz, who has famed it for a generation. But if your community had, let's say, 500 people knocking on doors on behalf of Jen, they would try to squash that in a second. They wouldn't. They would come up with some scandal, some type of excuse, some gentrification plan. You know, they've been able to convince you that the big bad GOP, and that's not to defend the GOP and their actions, but the big bad GOP is what is standing in between you living even worse than you're currently living, or us basically keeping things exactly as they are. And maybe it gets a little better, maybe it gets a little worse. But the truth is, you have a lot more power than you think. That is what they don't want you to know. And when individuals like yourself really start educating the community, you know, that's where we have to have your back. Because if you start building real community outreach and you start helping non-corporate, street-minded individuals get elected into positions of power, that there is nothing more dangerous, because that doesn't allow the rich developers to continue this charade that they've been able to get away with. This doesn't allow FP&L to continue to poison our water because they think that we're just addicted to fossil fuels. That's where the most money comes from. We could be building green communities, sustainable communities, easily. Those are and that's just the surface. It gets so much deeper than that. There are people who are strictly in it for their own personal selfish gains, like the person who came in to gentrify the community where the community garden was. And they're everywhere. And the only way that this is going to change, and this is a blueprint for everywhere, quite frankly, there are, for every Weston, there is a Liberia, maybe multiple Liberias. Those communities are not allowed to thrive unless somebody else is suffering. We do not have a living wage. We do not have universal health care. Our planet's on fire. We're in endless war, and we can't afford to live. So what the hell do you think is going to happen? At some point, the dam's going to break. And so the fact that you do what you do gives us hope, because when we first started getting out there in the community, like you said, there were people who may have acted like they cared about Jen, But the truth is, they were going behind our back, going to people like you and saying, oh, keep Jen away from any position of power. We can't have somebody like her upsetting the apple cart around here. But the walls talk, and we know who's actually fighting for the right causes and the ones who are not. And you, my friend, are fighting for the right causes, and cannot thank you enough for what you do.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.